What's up, beautiful people?
Hey, guys.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome.
For our American listeners, happy Thanksgiving, because yesterday was Thanksgiving and we're recording this early, but we're still so thankful. It's been a month of thankfulness. We have a lot of really good news that we get to share. If you've been watching our vlog, we got news that the windows are finally coming in on the house and they're going to be able to start doing the rest of the work on our house. So we kind of figured, what a fun topic to talk about on our podcast today. Building a house, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
The good is right here. This is the
gosh.
only good part.
No.
I will say, from the beginning, Amanda has been so organized. She has like these mood boards and these like different photo albums with like, here's what the kitchen's gonna look like, and here's what and it's been so inspiring to me. I never thought I would be that guy who like loves to look at like house stuff, but it's so fun, especially when you're in that dreaming phase and stuff. That's obviously the fun part. There's a lot we're going to get into, but if you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't already subscribed, we would love for you to do that. If you're not already left a rating, we would love for you to do that. We're everywhere podcasts are, be it Spotify podcasts, Apple podcasts, YouTube, obviously, as well. And we'd love for you to subscribe, give us a rating, drop us a comment. We'd love to, talk to you guys in the comment sections as well. Or you can just slide into our DMs over on Instagram at the Miller Fam, and we love to talk to you there as well. But we're going to get into it, this little home building thing. So
I feel like this is kind of overwhelming to even think about talking about, because it has been such an overwhelming journey for us so far, and we are not through it yet. So I feel like that is kind of hard for me when I'm in the middle of something that's been challenging. Like, it's almost my tendency to kind of want to wait to see how it like wraps up and how we work through it and all of that before I talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And
there is light at the end of the tunnel, though. For the first, I feel like for the first time in a year and a half, there's light at the end of the tunnel on this thing.
Yeah. So we can talk about some of the challenges and some of the unexpected, things that have popped up for us, but I think we wanted to talk first about why we decided to do this, how long we planned to try to build a home and have our little homestead and all of that. It's been years in the making, honestly.
So like if we really want to get to the beginning, you back up to when we were living in Texas. And as with many people, we found ourselves where we work from home and we could kind of live wherever we wanted to live for the first time really ever. And so we kind of started talking about like, do we want to live in Texas? To which I responded, and you guys, this is no secret, no offense to Texas, but the heat was not my thing. And I really love seasons, like 4 full real seasons. And so we started kind of dreaming up, with music, like we have almost moved to Nashville so many times. And really, we thought we were going to be in a different area of town. But when we moved here, like that just wasn't working out. So
the economy, like the home building, everything, all of it, just home buying in general, it's kind of crazy. Obviously, you guys know that different parts of the country, it's more challenging. And there are so many people that are moving to Texas and to Tennessee, to Florida, that kind of thing.
Especially.
So the first few times that we looked at possibly moving to Nashville, it was more affordable than it is now.
So much more affordable.
I kind of wish we had done this a couple of years earlier, but it just wasn't the right time for our family. So I understand why that didn't work out.
Like the same houses that we were looking at then are like triple now what they were.
That might be an exaggeration.
No,
but they are.
It's not. It's not an exaggeration. Particularly like Franklin area.
Franklin is
like,
very
it's
expensive.
Nuts.
Yeah. We weren't going to, that was an area that we were drawn to because we have a lot of friends there. The church that we go to is there. But as we were kind of looking at trying to find some land, maybe a creek, that kind of thing, we just realized that is not going to be an option probably to find at all. But then to be able to afford, it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
So we started kind of looking outside of the box there. The home that we ended up renting for a year, and that was another thing that went into this, because we knew we wanted to build something or maybe remodel something. But we wanted to rent for a year so we could really figure out the area that we wanted to live.
Yeah.
And that takes some time because we were relocating from Texas, which I will say I love Texas. I grew up in Texas. Most of our family's in Texas, so it still feels like home in a lot of ways. But we love Tennessee. We love Nashville so much. This definitely feels like home.
There are a few things I really miss about Texas, though. If you are from Texas or if you've been to Texas, you will appreciate this. I miss H-E-B.
Oh, gosh,
It's like the greatest grocery store in the world.
It is. I do miss H-E-B.
I miss Alamo Draft House. Greatest movie-going experience in the world. I miss the food, like particularly like Tex-Mex, like Torchy's Tacos. I miss Cilantro. It's like this Korean barbecue Mexican fusion place. It's so good.
Yeah. But this episode is about home building.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring it back in.
But I have to, I just got to sometimes float that nostalgia out there.
When we talk about Texas, there are a lot of things we do love about it still, and we go and visit a lot.
Yeah.
But as far as Tennessee goes, this was a long process of us finding just the land of where we wanted to live.
So with that, when we got here, Amanda was like, I really want to be on some land with a creek. And I was like, yeah, good luck, number one.
Yeah.
And I was also like, I would like to be close to things. I would really like to be able to like not drive 40 minutes to the grocery store. I want to be able to get to do stuff pretty quickly. And
we kind of wrote down a list of things we were looking for, and it did seem like there were a lot of commonalities that we had, but there were also a few things that seemed to kind of clash, and we were wondering, how is this going to work? How are we going to find something that's land and a creek and is close to town? And it just didn't seem like there was a lot out there, and there were so many people buying.
Right.
And so we took that first year while we were renting to really look, and I thought, oh, well, that's fine. We'll have 6, 7, 8 months. We'll definitely find something by that time. And we looked at so many houses, and we did a lot of kind of house hunting and preparation and that kind of stuff. And it just didn't seem to be coming together. And we started to get really nervous. Like, is this even achievable? Is this possible? Are we going to find this?
It was really disheartening because like I remember so vividly, there were so many times that we would go look at homes that were maybe we could build, but they were like all in a neighborhood, and you're gonna like be able to like touch your neighbor's wall from your window, and they're just crazy expensive, and we're just like, there's no way. And so we started to really get kind of sad, and did we make the right decision moving here? But we were waiting, and we kept looking, and we kept looking and waiting and looking and waiting and looking.
I still remember the night that we found our property, because we weren't actually looking at that moment. We
kind of gave up, yeah.
We had just kind of said, let's put a pause on this because we're getting discouraged, and we're just going to pray, and we're just going to, ask God to open some doors if this is meant to be. And it was one of our friends that had actually also moved to the Nashville area. They're on the other side of town, so it's like they're like over an hour away, which is kind of a bummer. But we love them dearly, and they knew that we were looking for property, and they sent us this listing that apparently had been on for a year.
It had been on a while, and no reason it would have sold. Like the picture when he sent it, the little thumbnail that pops up on your text, it's like a dungeony basement that's full of cobwebs, and it's like a rusted old stove. That's the picture.
That was the picture of the house that they had posted.
I was like, bro, what are you sending me? I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
But
it said 4 acres. And so we're like,
4 acres. We're like looking, it's on the river. We're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's just crazy overpriced. And we got the appraisal on it. We went and checked it out. We were like, well, it's a total gut job.
Yeah, it was a house, a small house. So first of all, we knew this was not going to fit our family. So if we were going to be doing this, we would be having to renovate the whole thing and expand, which is a big project. We
were like, there's no way that like this is going to work for us. We're going to have to rip it down to the studs. So we got the appraisal.
Yeah, the appraisal. Yeah, sorry.
So we got the appraisal, and it was like, I mean, they were asking like double kind of what it was worth.
It was overpriced, which is why it hadn't sold.
Yeah.
And so we thought like maybe we can just
offer them what the appraisal was for.
And we went back and forth a little bit, but then they ended up accepting.
They did,
our offer,
and we knew, and it was funny because, you know, you have to do the inspection, and the inspector's like, there are termites, there is mold, there is, and we're just like, we don't
asbestos,
care. Like there's asbestos, which now that's a little bit of a thing because you get the asbestos and you're spending $15,000 just to remove that. And
it doesn't add
any value to your home. So we're like, ugh, but like for everything else, we're like, yeah, we're ripping it down to the studs anyway. And so like, it doesn't matter. So we did it and we started that work. And that like, literally that was over a year and a half ago that we, put the offer in on the house. And we thought, you know, we were very, I think, naive and also, optimistic, and, we just believed people when they told us things.
Well, I will say the one thing that everyone did say, which we also noticed immediately, is there is so much potential here.
Yeah.
It's this gorgeous home site, and you've got this creek running through the back, which is totally what we wanted, right?
Yeah.
You've got this older home that needs a lot of work, but you can just see, if you can just envision this home being finished and just having this beautiful land and a creek for the kids to play in, and people can kayak through the water, and it's just like
we're like seeing legacy. You know, we're like seeing this is the property, this is the home that our kids are going to come home to for the holidays, that they're going to bring their kids to, that their kids are going to bring their kids to. Like, this is a legacy thing. You know, it's not just where do we want to live for the next few years? You know, we've moved around a lot. And we were just like, we want to set up a home base that we can live the rest of our days in. Maybe that's idealistic. I don't know. I feel like that's the dream we had in our hearts. And we could kind of look at this piece of trash house and see that dream, you know?
Yeah.
So
the kids too, though, like our whole family, this move it was the first time really that we as an entire family got to kind of decide like, where are we going to go and what are we going to do? Because we were working from home now on various different things. YouTube's one of them, podcasts, different things. But this was the first time that Stephen wasn't having to take a job somewhere that we just relocated for the purpose of that job. And we got to decide. And so the kids really had a lot of input into it. They were very excited and on board. And so when we showed them this property, they also were like, okay, this is going to be amazing. Especially when we told them like the house is not going to always look like this.
Right.
Because it was pretty scary. It was very dark and everything was original to 1970.
You had purple, like royal purple carpet, mustard carpet,
like
wood panel carpet. Walls, like just like there were random pipes sticking out of the ceiling that were like dripping water. There was just all kinds of crazy, blue everything. I mean, it was a scary looking house, honestly.
Yeah, but I definitely caught the vision very quickly, and I think I can contribute that to maybe Chip and Joanna Gaines.
There's a lot of inspiration.
There's a lot of the houses that you know, if you watch those types of shows like renovation shows and stuff, you can see how they can take something that is just really in a bad shape and turn it into something gorgeous. And so I knew that was possible. And I just knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I was willing to put in the work. What I didn't anticipate is how long it would be. That's been the bigger challenge here. And we can kind of go into some of those.
Yeah. So,
details.
I mean, a lot of people asked, you know, isn't it just more effective, like more cost effective? Isn't it cheaper? Isn't it more convenient to just buy something that's pre-built or just to build from the ground up rather than renovating a home? And I mean, maybe, but there's no way we're going to get that property, that view, the dream. There was no way we were going to get the dream doing that. And so a lot of people ask the question, would you, given the chance to do it all over, would you still do it? I don't know. I don't know if we would have just bulldozed the whole thing and started from scratch.
I mean, we basically almost.
We kind of did to some extent.
It was down to the foundation, basically.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know, I think the big question was like, what would you do differently now what have been the biggest snags, and how has that been hard on our marriage and on our family. I would say the number one thing would be, anytime your contractor tells you a deadline, just double it at least. Because especially during COVID, during that, yeah. Right now anyway, and looks like for this foreseeable future, if you're thinking about building a home, I mean, order the windows the day you put the offer on the house. That's been a big thing for us. Cause like
close on the house.
Yeah, close on the house. You don't get it. You buy windows and you don't get the house. But like our contractor told us like, oh yeah, I'll have you in. Well, first we were gonna try to do the basement and then live in the basement while we did the rest of the house. Yeah. That wasn't gonna work. So we bought an RV. Thinking, okay, we've got, we moved in basically November 1st of last year, and our contractor said, like, I'll have you in by March, So we were like, hey.
We were thinking it would go faster than it would. I think we were definitely naive. I know a lot of people have said we were really naive. I think we were honestly just hoping for the best,
Hopeful.
But the thing with home building is that you're going to get really discouraged if you're just hoping for the best on everything, because there are always going to be delays and there's always going to be hiccups and things that you got to deal with. The biggest one for us that I think is avoidable for a lot of people, you just have to kind of know what you're walking into, is we didn't understand with the windows. There's so many different types of windows you can buy. There's vinyl windows, there's aluminum windows, there's wood windows, different price points and that kind of thing. We knew this was going to be a home we were going to be in for a really long time. And so we wanted to have these nice, beautiful, oversized windows. And you can do custom windows more so with aluminum windows. And what we didn't know at the time is that if we had gone with vinyl windows, which are kind of standard windows for a lot of homes, we would have had our windows in a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But because we went with some custom windows, which I don't know. It's hard to say that, but I don't think I would change it.
I think in a year and a half, we'll be glad we chose to wait.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we told ourselves at the beginning. It was like, they said the vinyl windows would be 14 weeks and the aluminum windows would be 22 weeks. And we were like, well, that's only 8 weeks. It's really 2 months. Is 2 months really going to be that big of a difference in the grand scheme of a home that we want to keep for our life and our kids' lives and their kids' lives and all of that, and so we did go with the custom kind of aluminum windows, but they said 22 weeks, and then 22 weeks rolled around, and they were like, "We don't know when you're going to get your windows."
Right, and I think that's the hardest part, is that there were so many questions that we had, and we could not get to the bottom of it, and we couldn't find the answers. Like they were not giving us the correct answers. They were just saying there's labor shortages and there's like supply
chain, and they can't get the glass, and the
glass is apparently being made in Ukraine, which is going to be really problematic. When
Side note: on there. This is a $1 billion idea. If anyone's watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, start a windows company that you make everything from scratch, and you will be a billionaire this year.
Because they were saying,
I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
There were screws. There was a certain kind of screw that they needed for some of the windows. We had like casement windows over the kitchen sink and different things, and there were like these certain screws that come from China, and they were just not coming in. And I'm like, it's a screw. Are you kidding me?
Screw.
So that has been very, very difficult for us. We waited many months beyond that, where the house was just sitting and collecting dust, and nothing was progressing really, because they can't do much until the windows come in. There's nothing else that can be done on the inside. You have to have a airtight home that you can if there's going to be a bunch of rain or something,
let the moisture get in and destroy all the drywall and sheetrock and all that stuff.
That was the most discouraging part of this entire process, has been the past 4 or 5 months of just seeing almost no progress. Every day we go over there and it's still sitting there exactly the same. I mean, I have cried many tears over that, and I feel like it's just been this roller coaster of emotion, because it's like some days you're just like, okay, Lord, we're going to get through this. We trust you. It's going to be okay. you're going to make this happen in your timing.
Yeah.
And then a month goes by and you're just like, and it's still here. And then you get discouraged and then you cry and then you're like losing hope. And then you're like, no, I'm going to trust the Lord. And then it's like over and over again.
It is a
for
roller
many
coaster.
months.
And I think that some of the hard thing is that you try to describe this to people and they don't get it. Like they're just like, stop complaining, you know, at least you have your health or whatever. And you're just like, I don't think you understand. Like because we're optimistic, we're like, okay, we're going to live in an RV while we wait. 9 of us living in an RV, which
we thought it was going to be like,
we thought it was going to be a few months, you know. 9 months later, we're like, dude, we can't do this anymore.
9 months later with the house still in the same shape and no end sight.
We walk outside and we see the shell of a home every day, and it's just like every day chipping away. And you've got teenagers, girls and boys, living in the same bunk room.
They were excited at first. That's the thing, is like we were all kind of on the same page. We're like, oh, we can do this. We're going to sacrifice a little bit, but in the end, we're going to be able to achieve this thing. It's going to be great. But when it is double the timeline and you're still nowhere close to finishing, and your kids are asking, when do we get to move in? And we're like, I cannot give you an answer. This is so hard. We just kind of had to make the call, like, this is not working. And for whatever reason, we're needing to wait longer. And so we just decided, like, the RV is not going to be the long-term solution for our family. And that's okay. And I think it was good for our kids to be able to see mom and dad change their mind on something or pivot and say, like, you know what, we're going to go a different direction now, and that's okay. Like, I think it was good for them to see that. I don't know if it was necessarily a mistake. I'm sure a lot of people would probably think it was a mistake. But going back to that, I probably would have made the same decision again because it felt reasonable at the time.
It did. And
save some money.
We saved 9 months of paying an RV versus rent on a place and a mortgage. Because here's the thing you don't understand. You're still paying the mortgage on the property that you bought to renovate. So you've got that mortgage, then you've got where you're living mortgage. And so that's a lot. And most people don't have, and us included. Thank the Lord, he's provided. But it's a very like disheartening thing when you're like, man, I don't know how much longer we're going to just be able to do a double mortgage kind of situation. And people don't really understand that. And we don't want to complain about whatever, but it's like, you feel that's like tough. Like, you're kind of like, when is this going to run out? When are we going to
be wasting all of your money and
we're
all
throwing
of your
our savings away. We're throwing away like all the stuff that we've worked for and built. And so there's that. And that's a very real piece. So that's something to think about. Like if you're thinking about building a home, you know, there may be some overlap. I think if you're building from scratch, it's a little different, like a renovation loan versus like, an actual like building from scratch loan. They're kind of different.
Do we want to go into that loan stuff, the loan fiasco a little bit too?
I mean,
that's something that people should probably know about that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
So there are obviously there's different types of loans. We had purchased our property with the home on it.
Yeah.
And then decided to do the renovations, right? And so we were going to get a separate renovation loan to do that. And we had decided we had money in savings. There was like the asbestos that needed to be removed, various things. We were going to do some demo. We thought like, okay, we're going to get a head start on this.
Yeah.
And do some of this demo. And then by the time we're like ready to close on this renovation loan in a month or two, we'll have a head start. We'll have already
started. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went ahead and did that. We had basically the roof taken off. We had it was basically gutted. It was not livable.
It was already framed up. Like the whole second floor, the extra wing, we had done all that with cash that we had saved and that we had worked really hard. And we're like, okay, we'll get a start on this. We'll start building the equity. We'll get a head start on the process so that we're not having to wait as long. And so we paid cash for a lot of this stuff. Well, the banks were kind of like,
apparently a renovation loan, they are not going to give to you unless it is still technically livable. Which I had no idea about this. This was actually a huge shock to us. So when we started shopping for a renovation loan to finish our property, all of them were like,
we can't touch that. There's no way.
Yeah, this isn't livable. There's no roof on it. We're not going to loan you. Like, what is this going to even be?
Yeah.
And we went to so many different lenders and none of them would touch it, which that really scared me because I was like, what have we done? We've just gotten into this extremely expensive process and now nobody's going to loan us the rest of the money to finish this house. Are you kidding me? We did end up finally finding an amazing lender that is local here that was like, okay, this is like a construction loan, not a renovation loan, and we're just going to do it that way or whatever.
It was awesome, and we're so grateful that we did, but it was one of those, like, just so you know, guys, this is like,
don't rip the house.
Don't rip your house apart before the loan is secured.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think. If some of you guys are watching me like, oh no, no, you guys are so stupid. And maybe we are, but we'd never done anything like this before.
I felt like we did some research. I felt like we did a good amount of research before we got started, but we really didn't understand a lot about the home building process. And so a lot of this is like, you live and you learn, you look back and you're like, wow, like, now I know, right?
So let our mistakes teach you guys what not to do.
So that was like an extremely stressful time, was first just trying to secure the rest of that loan, right? And then we get through that and we're like, okay, let's just keep going. And then the Windows stuff happens for so many months. And we're like, are we ever going to finish this house? Like, this has been so discouraging. And it's been hard to kind of, in some ways, see the kids' discouragement. It's been even harder than our own discouragement, because, we're just bouncing around from place to place, the RV, now we're in this rental home, and putting the kids to bed at night. We say our prayers every night, and we talk, and we kind of let them kind of share how they're feeling. And so oftentimes they're like, why is it happening this way? Why is it so difficult? Why is God not allowing this to move forward? And it's been a very, it's been a big lesson for our family in patience, in trusting God, even when you really don't see the end in sight and you don't know how it's going to all work out. There were days where I felt like maybe these windows are not going to come in. Maybe we're going to just have to cancel this order and start over, and it's going to be another 6 months. And it's just been really challenging and really disheartening in a lot of ways. But I think something that has been really good that's come out of this is that our family and our children have been able to see God sustaining us each step of the way and building our faith along the way to where we're going to eventually be through this process. Like it feels like it's lasting forever, but it's not actually going to last forever. And someday we're going to be on the other side of this, and we're going to see how God provided every step of the way. And I do think that it has built some resilience in our
That's
family.
what I was going to say. I feel like the biggest thing that I have noticed is, and I'm grateful for, is the opportunity to teach our children resilience, to really roll with the punches, and that things are not going to pan out, most likely, in a lot of your life, right? Not just in home building, but just in general. Most things are not going to pan out the way that you really ideally think that they will or hope that they will. And so you really got to pivot and change and roll with it and like get creative sometimes. And they've seen that happen with us from the beginning of like, we're going to just pay cash and get started on this thing. And then realizing that was the bad move, changing things up and really going hard to find a solution, and then getting that solution, and then seeing how we, did the RV to save some money, and then decided to travel all summer and do photography for Airbnbs and get creative how to do that, so that we could travel and also live somewhere that's not an RV. And then, we thought our windows are going to come in over the summer. And so we got a month-to-month Airbnb that's furnished, and then our windows didn't come in. So then to see that kind of pivot, and now that sort of month-to-month lease is up, and so we're moving into like an apartment, and we're figuring all that stuff out. And so like to see that like life will not go the way that you want it to go a lot of the time, and that's okay. You can take initiative, you can get creative, you can be the one to, if you need to make more money, there's money to be made. So go make it. If you need to figure out ways to like trade your craft for something, there's a way to do that too, And so like, it's been really cool to be able to show that to our kids and to watch them kind of like taking that on themselves as well. You know?
And I think just understanding, I think all of us, not just the kids, but us in deeper ways as well, like understanding that like when life gets really tough, it's still going to be okay at the end of the day.
That's right.
Even when you don't feel okay. And it's okay for you to not feel okay. Like there have been so many times throughout this process where I have just not been okay, and Steven's not been okay, or the kids have not been okay. And you have to like, you have to be very gracious with yourself, because it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to, take some time for yourself if you really do need to take a step back. Like, I think that this has just been such a growing process for our entire family, but I think it's been one that has strengthened us, even though in a lot of ways it feels like you're kind of getting broken down, right? And you feel like very fragile and very frail a lot of times. And you're just, you don't feel your strongest when you're going through difficult things. But then you can get to the other side of that and you can see where that strength has been built and where that resilience has been built. And I think it has been one of the best things that has come out of this is that it has strengthened our relationships with the kids and with us, you and me together. Our marriage has definitely been strengthened, even though it's been tried a lot, right? It's been really challenging at times, but I think it's grown us closer together and it's just fortified us in so many ways.
It is funny that, we've been building this house, and I think that there would be a lot of opportunities for us to clash on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And really the only time we've clashed is when we were trying to pick out light fixtures.
Light fixtures. That was the thing that has, all these big things we're talking about, like what the overall house design is going to look like and like the colors of it and just everything, like how big we want to go or like what we want it to be like. Yeah. None of that. We've just been like, sure, great. Yeah.
Love it.
You love this.
That's
I
great.
love this. We'll merge it
Very
together.
similar design taste,
Yeah. But even when there hasn't been that similar design, like we've found it pretty easy to find common ground.
Yeah.
But we went a few months back when we thought the windows were going to be coming in quickly. We went and we were picking out light fixtures at this place that our contractor had told us about, and we could not agree on one single light. Everything I'd be like, what do you think about this? And Stephen would be like, I kind of hate it.
No, I would say, if you like it, we can go.
You tried to kind of like hide, but you like utterly hated my choices. Utterly hated them. There were a couple of times where you're just like, I hate that. Yeah. And same for me though. There are times where you pick things out and I'm just like, that's not good. Yeah.
I think we did land on good things though, eventually.
Yeah. I feel like we have now to the point where we have a few things kind of in the queue where we're like, okay, when we're ready to get these, we know what we want now. Yeah. But that is just so funny. There are certain things I think you just don't expect, right? It's unexpected to agree on a lot of these things and then clash over lights.
Because you think like, oh, lights, they're just so like, that will be easy, Yeah. But the light is such a centerpiece for a room in so many cases, Like you can't see them, but Sean and Andrew here in the studio here have like these great, what are they called? Like woven basket lights. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're cool. Cute. And I love them. It draws the eye.
It really can make a room look so much better. But
anyway,
so was there other things we wanted to cover, or is this? I know this was a lot, but
it is a lot. And basically, I think if you could go back, we'll end with this. If you could go back to a year and a half ago and coach your younger self, what would you do differently now?
I don't think I would make different choices as far as the house goes, other than getting that loan before we ripped the roof off.
That would be the
big one. But I
think ordering the windows as soon as we did.
Yes. But the biggest thing I would coach myself on is not necessarily the choices that we made, but the perspective going into it. Just being able to go into it with an understanding that it is going to be harder than you think. Like I thought this is going to be challenging, but I didn't anticipate how challenging. And I think that if I could have coached myself to just kind of have a better understanding and just like an awareness about it to where I wasn't going to necessarily get so discouraged.
It's not HGTV where you you buy the house and then 30 minutes later you have a renovated house.
Or even 3 months later. Like we did a massive project. This was our first one. Like we have done home renovation stuff before where we've like, put in new tile or we did a kitchen renovation, honestly, in St. Louis. But we had a contractor for a lot of that, but we did a lot of it ourselves as well. Yeah. And that was a lot of hard work. So I feel like we had some experience with that, but we had never gutted a house and expanded it out and like done this huge renovation. And so I just think that we just didn't understand how long of a process it would be.
Yeah.
And so I think that perspective is so key in this.
Yeah.
And making sure that you don't, like, you can be idealistic, that's great and stuff, but you got to be grounded, because otherwise you're just gonna get tossed about by all of these things that pop up when it comes to renovations. And I do think that now, having been through this for about 1.5 years now, we are a lot more grounded, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
Like, things are not just kind of like, I don't know, affecting us as much.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more to kind of
We got the hope crushed out of us a little bit.
or the discouragement crushed out of us, to now where it's like, you know, I want to have a positive perspective on things, and I don't want to, like, nobody likes the feeling of just like being out of control or feeling like just hopeless or desperate or whatever. Like that's a terrible feeling. But the truth is that in life, whether you're building a house or any of these other things, there's going to be so many moments where that is what you're going to experience, things that are going to tempt you to feel desperate and hopeless and out of control. And I think that it's so key that, like for me, for my faith, to be able to just lean into that, and not just with your words and with your mind, knowing like, okay, I trust the Lord, but like really on a day-to-day basis, like, what are you hoping in? Are you hoping that those windows are coming in tomorrow, and if not, you're not going to be okay? Or are you hoping that regardless of what today looks like, you're going to be okay, because the Lord's going to be with you each step of the way, and you know that he's going to be taking care of you, you know? So
this is why I married her, guys. This is like, this perspective. Oh my gosh. I needed that right now. I just needed to hear that just now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll end with this little beautiful people segment. And we haven't done one of these in a little bit. Yeah. This is a pretty cool one, guys. Today's feature is a guy named Chris Nikic. I think that's how he says his last name. I watched the video, and it's just like kind of a loudspeaker, and you can't quite hear it, but I think it's Chris Nikic. He's the first athlete with Down's syndrome to have completed the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. He celebrated his 23rd birthday after crossing the finish line with his volunteer guide, and accomplished the feat with during Down's Syndrome Awareness Month. He said, "I rarely saw anyone who looks like me in mainstream sports, and now we're changing that. Running changed my life, but now I want everyone like me to see it's possible for them too." The Ironman, if you guys are unfamiliar, it has 3 events. So you have to do a 2.4-mile swim, which, holy cow, that's a lot of swimming. A 112-mile bike ride, which, goodness, and a 26.2-mile run, and Chris completed them all. So we're going to drop that article in the show notes so you guys can check that out for yourselves. But man, that's encouraging, and just goes to show, like, you can do it, you know, like you can do it. So no matter what your limitations are, there are opportunities for you to do something extraordinary and phenomenal. And, so, man, we're grateful for that story, and we're grateful for you guys. Again, if you've not already subscribed, please subscribe to this podcast and leave a review for us. We can't wait to see you guys next week. We've only got a couple episodes left this year, and they're going to be good ones. So be on the lookout. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.